The night before my brother's wedding, I went to bed dreaming of lace and laughter, completely unaware that my sister was standing just down the hall, holding a pair of scissors and deciding how best to destroy me. I'm about to share something personal, but first, drop your city or country in the comments. Let's see how many hearts this story can touch. I'm Lily, 27 years old, and for most of my life, I've been taught to take up less space, to speak gently, to let Olivia shine. She was the golden girl, sharp, stylish, manipulative. I was the quiet one, the peacekeeper, the sister who swallowed insults like communion wafers, hoping they'd turn into grace. But James, my older brother, was different. He was the only one who saw me, the only one who pulled me out of the shadows. When he got engaged to Clara, it felt like a second chance for all of us. Clara welcomed me like family. She asked for my input, trusted my eye for detail, even let me design the wedding menus. And for the first time, I felt visible, important, loved. That didn't sit well with Olivia. In the weeks leading up to the wedding, her passive aggression shifted into something colder. At the final dress fitting, she accidentally knocked coffee into my garment bag. When I rehearsed my speech for James, she mocked it line by line, then called me fragile when I excused myself to cry. Every dig was calculated, every smile laced with venom, but I kept telling myself, this is James's moment, don't make it about you. The night before the wedding, I stayed at our childhood home. Safer for the early start, I told myself. I steamed my soft blue dress, arranged my heels beside the vanity, and laid out my brushes and palettes like sacred tools. I had plans for soft curls, glowy makeup, a look that said, I belong here too. After a warm shower, I braided my freshly conditioned hair so it would fall in perfect waves come morning. I even said a prayer out loud, asking for peace, for harmony, for just one day where Olivia didn't come for me with her claws hidden behind a manicured hand. I turned off the light and let myself believe, just for a moment, that tomorrow would be about love, that my family could act like one, that I was safe. But down the hall, Olivia had already decided otherwise. And while I slept beneath the quilt my grandmother made, she crept into my room and began cutting away the one thing I'd always been known for, strand by golden strand. Something was wrong. Even before I opened my eyes, I felt it. The weight on my head was off, unfamiliar. My fingers moved instinctively, reaching for the soft braid I'd twisted the night before, but they met nothing, just air. Then the jagged ends, rough, uneven. My hand brushed my pillow and came back with a strand of blonde hair. Not a strand, a clump. My breath caught. I bolted upright, heart pounding, and more hair slipped from my shoulders like dead petals. My hands trembled as I reached up again, this time frantically. Patches. There were patches. My hair was uneven, chunks completely gone, and in some places I could feel the cold slickness of scalp. No, I whispered, the word falling out like breath from a drowning girl. No, no, no. The door creaked open. She didn't even bother to knock. Olivia leaned against the frame in her silky robe, holding a cup of coffee like this was just another morning. Her mouth curled, not quite a smile, more like satisfaction that hadn't yet decided whether it would gloat. What did you do? My voice cracked as I rose from the bed, arms still clutching at what little hair I had left. She took a slow sip. Oh, Lily, she said, voice sugar slick. You were thrashing in your sleep. I thought something was wrong. Maybe you got tangled. I was just trying to help. I stared at her, eyes wide. Help? You cut my hair. She shrugged. It's just hair. Don't be so dramatic. My knees buckled slightly, and I caught myself on the edge of the dresser. In the mirror, a stranger looked back. Hair hacked in crude, uneven angles. My braid was gone. My softness gone. I looked wild, broken. What the hell is going on in here? My mother's voice cut through the doorway. She appeared seconds later, wrapped in a towel, eyes flitting over the scene. Are you two really fighting again? On James's wedding day? She cut my hair, I said, pointing at Olivia. While I was sleeping, My mother sighed like she'd walked in on spilled milk. Lily, please. You probably did it yourself and don't remember. You get anxious before big events. Remember prom? That wasn't even remotely true. Olivia crossed the room and gently placed a hand on my shoulder. Maybe this is a sign, she said sweetly. Start fresh, a new look for a new season. I flinched away. My father appeared next, already in his suit. He took one look at me and said, "Fix it, we've got a schedule to keep." And just like that, it was settled. My hair was gone, my trust gone, my family's concern non-existent. They left me alone in the room. The door clicked shut. I looked back at the mirror. Tears welled in my eyes. I didn't cry for the hair. I cried for the realization that no one in this house would ever protect me, not even from each other. By the time I stumbled downstairs, mascara smudged from the tears I'd wiped away with shaking hands. Olivia was already at the kitchen table. Her hair was curled into soft, smug waves. She was laughing, with our mother over a second cup of coffee, as if nothing had happened, as if I hadn't woken up to pieces of myself scattered across my pillow. "Look who's finally up," Olivia said sweetly, tilting her head. "Are you feeling any better?" I froze in the doorway. "You know exactly what you did." She blinked, all wide-eyed innocence. "Lily, I already told them. I found you like that. I thought maybe you had, I don't know, some kind of breakdown?" Our mother gasped just loud enough to be heard, one manicured hand fluttering to her chest like she'd just witnessed a car crash. "Lily, is that true? Oh, sweetheart, are you mentally overwhelmed again?" I stared at them, stunned. "What? No, I didn't do this to myself." Olivia cut my hair, in my sleep. Our father walked in then, adjusting his tie, already half checked out. "Let's not do this. It's your brother's wedding day." I turned to him, desperate. "Dad, look at me. Look at what she did." He didn't. He busied himself with pouring coffee. "Honestly," Olivia murmured, "it just breaks my heart. You were always so proud of your hair, and now, for it to come to this." "Your aunts," I whispered. My mother clucked her tongue. "Lily, that's enough. I don't know what happened in that room, but this behavior, it's not helping. Everyone's already stressed. Your brother deserves joy today, not more drama." I felt the walls close in, reality bending under the weight of their lies. My voice faltered. "She's lying, you know she's lying." But they didn't care, or worse, they did, and chose to ignore it. "You've always been sensitive," my mother said softly, with that pitying look I'd come to hate. "Let's just focus on the ceremony. Try to keep it together, for James." For James. As if this was about James. As if my grief, my rage, my humiliation were nothing more than a speed bump on the way to a picture-perfect family portrait. I walked away from them before I said something I couldn't take back. Upstairs, I shut the bathroom door and stared at myself in the mirror again. They wanted me to smile. They wanted me to bury it, to play the good daughter with the ruined hair and pretend this hadn't happened. But I wouldn't, not this time. They could pretend all they wanted. I wasn't crazy, and I wasn't going to let them write my story for me. The car ride to the salon was silent, thick with the kind of tension that made your skin itch. My mother sat beside me in the passenger seat, tapping frantically on her phone as she texted last-minute updates to the wedding coordinator. Olivia was behind the wheel, humming to herself. Not a care in the world. Like she hadn't taken a pair of scissors to my hair less than 2 hours ago. The salon was a sleek, glass-fronted building in the middle of town. My mother had called in a favor with Marianne, her longtime stylist, who apparently owed her for something vague and expensive-sounding. When we walked in, Marianne took one look at me and froze. "Oh, wow," she said, her eyes darting to my hairline. "Okay, what happened here?" "She had an incident," my mother said, before I could speak. "Bit of a nervous night. We just need you to make it neat for the wedding." Marianne's gaze flicked to me again. Something in her face shifted. Less professional, more human. She wasn't buying it. But she didn't ask questions. Just gestured me toward the chair and draped a cape around my shoulders with gentler hands than I expected. I sat stiffly, watching blonde wisps fall like feathers to the floor as she tried to shape what was left. Every snip felt like an accusation, every glance in the mirror a reminder of what had been taken. The girl staring back at me wasn't me, not the version I'd prepared so carefully for this day. This version had hollow eyes, a jaw too exposed, a neck that felt naked and vulnerable. Marianne leaned in close, as if adjusting a strand behind my ear, and whispered, "You didn't do this to yourself, did you?" My throat tightened. I shook my head once, no words, just that. She didn't say anything more, but she nodded, just barely, and patted my shoulder softly before finishing the cut. When she spun the chair around for the final reveal, I didn't recognize myself. The pixie cut was sharp, jagged in places, a salvage job done under pressure. My soft blue dress, once elegant and romantic, now looked childish, like it belonged on someone else entirely. The neckline was too sweet, the shoes too dainty. Everything I'd chosen to feel beautiful now felt like a costume on the wrong body. I paid with shaking hands and thanked Marianne under my breath. She looked at me with eyes full of quiet sympathy, but no one else noticed. My mother was already outside, yelling into her phone. Olivia was taking selfies in the side mirror. I climbed into the back seat and didn't say a word, because I knew now this day wasn't going to be about family or love or celebration. It was about survival, and I was already bleeding. The church smelled like lilies and old wood polish, and it should have felt sacred, but as I stepped inside, all I felt was the heavy weight of eyes. The hush that followed me wasn't reverent. It was curious, judging, pitying. I clutched my bouquet like it could anchor me, the stems damp in my palm. My pixie cut, still foreign on my head, felt like a scar under the overhead lights. I had tried to hide the unevenness with gel and some artfully placed bobby pins, but it was useless. You can't disguise sabotage. Not really. My mother greeted distant relatives with air kisses and tight smiles, avoiding introducing me. Olivia floated between pews like the star she always believed she was, hair cascading down her back in flawless curls. She looked back at me once, just once, and her smile held no warmth, only triumph. When it came time to line up, I found my name card last. The other bridesmaids were grouped in twos, close to the front. I was alone, positioned at the end of the row, strategically farthest from the aisle, and definitely out of view for most of the ceremony photos. Clara hadn't made that decision, I knew. She was too kind. This was Olivia's work. Guests I barely knew leaned in toward each other, whispering. Some were less subtle. "What happened to Lily's hair?" I overheard a distant aunt murmur. "Stress, maybe," someone else offered. "She's always been emotional." A few kind eyes met mine, but they flickered away too quickly to offer real comfort. I tried to breathe evenly, to focus on James standing at the altar with his jaw tight and eyes filled with love for his bride. He didn't know what had happened. No one had told him. When the music swelled and Clara walked in, radiant in lace and sunlight, I tried to anchor myself to her joy. But even then, I felt the heat of Olivia's stare. I didn't have to look at her to feel it. It radiated smug and sharp, as if she were silently daring me to make a scene. Instead, I stayed still, bouquet trembling slightly in my hands, and smiled when expected. I played my role. When the vows were exchanged, I bit the inside of my cheek to stop the sting behind my eyes. When the organ roared and the applause came, I clapped like everyone else. But inside, something was breaking and rebuilding all at once. They thought they'd taken something from me. But what they really did was show me exactly who they were. And that meant I no longer had to pretend. The reception hall was glowing with candlelight and soft music, every detail wrapped in the illusion of harmony. Ivory linens, golden place cards, polished cutlery, perfection, the kind James deserved. I clung to that thought like a lifeline, that this was for him, that I could endure a little longer. I was seated at a far corner table, surrounded by second cousins and Clara's co-workers, people who didn't know me well enough to ask questions, but stared long enough to make it clear they'd heard whispers. I smiled when necessary. I nodded. I chewed dry chicken and tasted none of it. Olivia was in her element. She floated from table to table like a pageant queen, accepting compliments that weren't meant for her with the grace of someone who had practiced their whole life. Her hair gleamed in every photograph. Her laughter was just loud enough to carry. When James stood for his toast, I straightened instinctively, my heart aching at how proud he looked. He raised his glass, voice warm and clear. "I just want to thank everyone who made today so beautiful," he began. "To Clara, my best friend and the love of my life, and to all of you for being here, for supporting us, for reminding us what family means." I felt the shift before it happened. Olivia turned in her seat, angled her body just enough so that only I could see her face, and smiled. Not soft, not sweet. It was the same look she'd given me in the mirror as kids when she took the last cookie, knowing no one would believe me. It was the look of someone who believed she'd won. James kept going, talking about loyalty, about growing up in a house full of women and how it had taught him to appreciate strength in every form. I wanted to believe he meant me. I wanted to think maybe he'd seen something in my silence that day. But Olivia's eyes never left mine, and her smile widened just slightly as he said the word grace. I felt something then, not sadness, not even rage, clarity. I was done playing the part, the quiet one, the good one, the one who let everyone else shine while swallowing humiliation with a forced smile. Olivia hadn't just taken scissors to my hair, she had carved away the last of my illusions. And in that hollow space, something colder and stronger began to grow. I lowered my glass slowly, never taking my eyes off her. She blinked first. They wanted a performance, a perfect day, a picture-perfect family, fine. But I knew now that I wasn't there to be a part of their story. I was going to write my own. I found Mia just outside the reception hall, sitting on a low stone ledge near the valet circle, heels kicked off, smoking a clove cigarette like we were still 17. She was my cousin on my dad's side, sharp-tongued, observant, the only person in the family who had ever seen through Olivia without blinking. She took one look at me and raised an eyebrow. "You look like someone's about to bleed." I sat down beside her, the hem of my dress gathering dust, and didn't say anything at first. The quiet between us was old and comfortable, like childhood forts and secrets shared under blanket tents. Then I said softly, "She cut my hair." Mia blinked. "You mean Olivia?" I nodded. She dragged in another breath of smoke, exhaled slowly. I knew something was off. But Jesus, Lily. They're pretending I did it to myself. That made her laugh, dry, humorless. Of course they are. God forbid St. Olivia ever lift a finger unless it's manicured. "I need your help," I said, turning to her fully. "I want proof, and I want people to see it." Mia didn't ask questions. "What do you need?" We started with the obvious. Olivia had bragged in text before about things she'd done, people she'd manipulated, jokes she thought were funny because no one else knew how cruel they really were. Mia still had screenshots from a family group chat 2 years ago where Olivia had mocked me for gaining weight during lockdown. Subtle shade, she'd called it. Everyone else had ignored it. Mia hadn't. While the dancing picked up inside, we slipped upstairs to the bridal suite. Mia picked the lock with a bobby pin like it was nothing, and we installed a small camera just inside the closet. Tiny, motion-triggered, angled perfectly at the vanity Olivia had been using all day. I planted the scissors. Not the ones she'd used, but close enough. Placed them on the vanity beside a note in my handwriting. "You always wanted the spotlight. Now it's yours." It wasn't about framing her. It was about pressure. Let her crack. We downloaded the raw footage from the salon. Marianne had security cams in every corner. The timestamp, the horror on her face, my mother's dismissive voice saying, "Just fix it." It was all there. Mia uploaded it to a private drive. We gathered everything, messages, photos, side-by-sides of me before and after. The dress that no longer fit the hair, the seating chart showing I'd been shoved to the edge of the celebration like an afterthought. I wasn't going to scream or throw a drink or flip a table. They wouldn't even see it coming. But Olivia had tried to humiliate me in silence. Now I would answer her in echoes she couldn't silence. It started slow, a drip, then a flood. 3 days after the wedding, the first post appeared. An anonymous Instagram account with no followers, no bio, just a black and white profile picture of a pair of scissors. It shared a single image, a blurry screenshot of Olivia's text to a mutual friend. She'll look like a plucked chicken in that bridesmaid dress after I'm done. Can't wait. The caption underneath was simple. Sister of the Year. I didn't post it. Mia did. Through a VPN, on a burner phone. We'd been methodical. At first, no one said anything directly, just some vague tweets from old classmates. Yikes. Wedding drama is in the air this week. A few comments on Olivia's most recent bridal selfie. You looked amazing. But where was your sister? Or something seems off. Olivia deleted them. Then came the next drop. A TikTok. A storytime video that never named her outright, but was unmistakably about her. Narrated by a female voice with a modulated tone, it told the story of a bride's sister waking up to find her hair hacked off, and how the bride and her parents blamed her for it. The audio from the salon camera played in the background. My mother's voice, just fix it, my shaky whisper. She did this while I was sleeping. That clip reached 10,000 views in 2 hours. The comments turned vicious. What kind of family does that? Please say this isn't about who I think it is. Someone tagged the sister. She deserves better. People were tagging Olivia's real account. By the next morning, she'd made her Instagram private. Screenshots of Olivia's old group chats started resurfacing. The ones where she mocked people's outfits, bragged about sabotaging classmates, even a comment she made about Clara's dress being tragically basic. Every one of them now had a fresh spotlight. No context needed. The pattern was becoming undeniable. Her DMs filled up. I know because someone leaked screenshots of those too. Strangers asking, "Did you really cut your sister's hair?" Old friends saying, "Wow, Olivia, this is who you are now." Her response to one was telling, "You don't understand. She always makes everything about herself." That message got shared too. The tide turned fast. Wedding photos were untagged. Olivia's followers started dropping. One of her bridesmaids quietly deleted every photo of herself from the wedding. And me? I said nothing, posted nothing, watched in silence as the carefully polished image my sister had spent years constructing began to crack under its own weight. The best part? No one could prove a thing. It was just screenshots, just whispers, just echoes of truth finally amplified. She made me invisible at that wedding. Now, she couldn't look anywhere without seeing me. It took exactly 6 days for the story to reach Olivia's boss. I didn't even know someone from her office had been at the wedding until Mia got a message from a friend of a friend. Was that the blonde girl from Westbridge Marketing, their PR coordinator? Because wow. By the time the viral TikTok passed 100,000 views, the damage was already beyond containment. Someone from HR reached out to Olivia to clarify details regarding her conduct at a recent personal event. Mia and I had anticipated this. We'd made sure the leaked texts were just specific enough to suggest cruelty, but vague enough to make her unravel trying to explain. Olivia tried, of course. Claimed the messages were jokes. Said people were jealous. She even posted a now-deleted story with white text on a black screen. Cancel culture is out of control. Not everything you hear is true. But the damage was done. Brands don't like messy faces. And PR firms especially don't like publicists who can't clean up their own disasters. Clara texted me first, quietly, carefully, "Hey." James told me what really happened. "I'm so sorry. I didn't know. There was no pressure, no demand for details, just soft understanding." I thanked her, and for the first time since the wedding, I felt a thread of something real forming again. And then James called. It was late. I was already in bed, the glow of my phone lighting up the room. "I need to ask you something," he said. "Did she really do it?" I hesitated, then said what I had rehearsed 1,000 times in my head. "I didn't want to ruin your wedding, James. That's why I didn't say anything. But yes, she did it. And Mom and Dad helped cover it up. There was a long silence, just his breath on the line. Then, "They told me you were having some kind of breakdown, that you cut it yourself." I know. I didn't want to believe it, but, Lily, I should have seen it. I saw your face at the reception. I just didn't ask. He didn't cry, neither did I. But something cracked open between us, something that had been sealed shut for years by loyalty to a family that didn't deserve it. The next morning, Olivia's desk at work was empty. She told people she was taking a mental health break, but word spread fast. She lost 2 freelance contracts that week, both citing concerns about her judgment in personal conduct. Worse than the jobs were the silences. Her phone stopped lighting up. Her bridesmaids stopped responding. Her photos, once filled with emojis and praise, were now graveyards of deleted comments. People still talked at family events. Whispers, raised eyebrows. Did you hear what she did to her sister? Not everyone believed it, but enough did. Olivia hadn't just lost control of the narrative, she'd lost her mask. I moved 3 weeks after the wedding, packed what I needed into 4 suitcases, and left behind the house I'd once called home, the street where neighbors still smiled at Olivia, and the silence of a family that applauded her cruelty with polite nods and tightly folded napkins. I didn't leave a note, didn't owe one. The new city wasn't glamorous, just clean and anonymous. That was what I needed. No reminders, no sideways glances, no brittle apologies that came too late and cost nothing. I found a small studio apartment with creaky floors and a window that caught the morning sun just right. It felt like air I could finally breathe. My hair, uneven and still raw at the ends, was the first thing I took care of. I sat in a real salon this time. The stylist gently brushed through what was left and asked no questions. She shaped it into something sharp, intentional, a cut that said, "I chose this, not this happened to me." When I looked in the mirror, I didn't see a victim. I saw a woman learning to take up space again. I started therapy the same week, told a stranger what my sister did, what my parents said, what I had swallowed for years in the name of keeping the peace. My therapist didn't flinch. She nodded slowly and said, "What they did wasn't just cruel. It was an attempt to erase you." And that, more than anything, gave me language for the wound I'd carried. I didn't respond when Olivia emailed, "You've made your point. Can we move on?" No apology, just the same entitlement dressed in passive aggression. I archived the message without reading past the subject line. My brother sent flowers, no card. I took it as a quiet beginning, not a fix. I'm not interested in repairing what still rots underneath. Only truth gets to stay. Months passed, seasons shifted, and then one day, walking to work with the wind in my face and my chin held high, I caught my reflection in a shop window and almost didn't recognize myself. Not because of the haircut, but because of the piece. She cut my hair, but she couldn't cut my voice. She couldn't cut my worth. She couldn't cut my future. And most importantly, she couldn't cut my power. I reclaimed every strand they tried to take from me. And I didn't just grow back. I transformed.